Hello everybody, welcome to another Far East Wargaming Army Showcase, bringing you the best of Heresy content and Heresy armies here in Southeast Asia. I'm Jason, you may recognize me from previous videos, and joining me today we have a fantastic Imperial Fists army brought to us by Matt.
Hey Jason.
Yeah, thanks for coming, we really appreciate it. Stunning army, first of all. Just looking at it, it makes me very excited and very happy to see this, and we're really excited to have it on the channel.
Thank you. Yeah. It's not often I get to take it out, so I'm as excited as you.
Okay.
To see it all laid out like this.
Excellent, excellent. Matt is one of our gaming crew here in Malaysia. As I mentioned, he's participated in some events in the past, and we really wanted to get his army on the channel, so very happy to do that today. Matt, just why don't you maybe give us just a brief introduction about yourself, perhaps what brought you to Asia, just a little bit of background.
Sure. So originally from the UK, and my love for all things Games Workshop stemmed from being a 16-year-old in the 80s and discovering Warhammer and fantasy and battle, so role play and tabletop gaming. But it only lasted for a short time because then quickly we grow up and go and study and get jobs and things, and so it was almost 30 years later that I came back to it in Malaysia. So why Malaysia? Well, I've lived all over the world, and I had a choice a few years ago. Do I want to move to Singapore or Malaysia? And I have to say I chose Malaysia because of many reasons, but mostly because of the people, and the country itself is very beautiful. And I have a Malaysian wife now, and I'm very happy here. So Malaysia's great. And when I discovered that it has a Warhammer store, it was even more amazing than I imagined, right? So our local store manager, Patrick, has been really supportive. I guess I think it's fair to say up front that I'm more of an Age of Sigmar player and painter than I am 40k or 30k, and there's a reason why this army came to be, so we can talk about that as well. So here I am, and thanks for interviewing me about this wonderful army, which I need to say I didn't paint.
It's quite all right. Yeah, it's quite all right. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. It's not so much whether or not you painted it yourself, it's just again about the passion and the interest and the participation. I think that's every bit as important. Whether or not you painted is kind of irrelevant. Your story is very interesting, actually. It's very similar, I think, to a lot of us expats that somehow wound up in Southeast Asia. Even in how I got back into the hobby is very similar to you. Coming to Malaysia, finding Pat's store, which is the largest Warhammer store in Asia. Great community, great people. So yeah, I can totally see how that happened in your particular case.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you, long time ago, you were in the hobby and perhaps in fantasy battle, like many of us kind of got our start.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit what brought you into 30K? Because as you mentioned, you were really an Age of Sigmar or historically a fantasy battle player. This is a very different game, very different fluff, everything else. So what really got you into 30K?
Well, the truth of the matter is, I tried to get into 40K. There's a very big 40K community here, and a lot of the Age of Sigmar players also play 40K. So I tried very hard to get into that, right? And the problem started with painting, because I chose Imperial Fists. I love the idea of being a loyalist and being part of that side of the conflict, and being the Emperor's fists, as it were, right? So I just like that. It's simple. That was the trigger. And then I'd heard or I'd been told that yellow's really difficult to paint. So
yes,
I thought, well, I'm gonna go for that, right? So I paint a lot, actually. Painting for me is a form of meditation. It's a form of mental health, improvement for myself, and
you're very prolific, by the way.
And I paint a lot.
Yes.
Right, but I paint a lot of Age of Sigmar, right? So I thought, okay, I'll try 40K and I'll try Imperial Fists. And I don't know if that combination just was the wrong way to get started, but I struggled. I couldn't paint. I still cannot paint a Marine, a Space Marine.
Yeah.
To a standard where I go, I like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The flat surfaces maybe and all that, or
That's right. And I think when I look at other people's work and I try and emulate it, I struggle. And I really tried hard. I have a box at home of lots of different yellow Marines, none of which I managed. I painted one squad of in black, and they worked out really good, but I couldn't get the yellow right. So that was the situation, and I tried a couple of test games, but I was, at the same time, Age of Sigmar, Season 2 came, AOS 2.0 came out, and now, in the meantime, 3.0, and I love it. I just really love it. So my focus is there. But then I went into Pat's store, and I met this guy called Jason. And I actually I think the first time I really met you was at a Armies on Parade. That's when I got to not only meet you, but meet what you love, which is 30K.
Yep.
Right? And you had a display, and the models were impeccable. The painting was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm like, this is what I need to be. This is what I want to have, right? And so it was an inspiration. It was an inspiration.
Oh, thank
Jason.
you for that. Thank you.
I'm serious about that.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And so time went by, and then Horus Heresy came out, right? So, Horus Heresy, it's great. You get a box and some rules, and you can start playing, right? So, and it doesn't feel as complex as I imagine 40K to be,
Yep.
right? But much deeper in lore, and that might be completely wrong, but that's just my impression.
Yeah.
So all of the lore is more accessible. I'm not sure what's the truth there, but that's how I've experienced it. So, and then the first thing I asked Pat was, can I play Imperial Fists in this? And he's like, yeah, of course you can, right? And they've got their own rules and everything. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can do that. So that was sort of when I decided, okay, I want to do that. I want to put aside the painting for a minute and get into this future gaming platform, 30K, 40K, via Horus Heresy. So that was sort of a decision I made. Yeah, I want to do this, right? But I'm going to put the painting aside, because I know if I try, maybe I should have just said, well, don't do Imperial Fists, do something else, right?
Yeah.
That's easier.
Yeah.
That you, or not necessarily easier, but that my style of painting can cope with. But I wanted Imperial Fists. If I'm going to do this, I want Imperial Fists. So I'm a bit one-track mind, OCD about the whole topic, right? So what I reached out to Daryl. Mm-hmm. I think you know Daryl. He's a local artist. He's an artist, really, and I said to him, would you mind painting a lot of yellow for me? And he wasn't very enthusiastic. And I said, look, it doesn't have to be all at once. We can take time to do this, right?
Yeah.
There's no rush. It's not for a tournament. We're just taking our time here. And so he agreed, and asked me how would I like the models to be, right? So what I really wanted was a worn look. I wanted a dirty, middle of the battle,
kind of a heresy, style of army.
Yeah. I guess you could say that, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want flashy yellow, but then what we got is this amazing army, which is both. It's flashy yellow and grungy, dirty, dusty, in the middle of a combat scenario, right? And the way he's managed to make the yellow pop is just beyond me. I don't know how he's done that, but yeah. So
Yeah,
That's some background.
no, not at all. I mean, thank you for sharing that with us, and I'm totally in agreement with you on the difficulty in painting yellow. It's always historically been a very challenging color to paint. I think it's a bit easier now, actually, with some of the zenithal and the pink undercoat and just different kinds of things.
I've tried it all.
Still a difficult color to tackle, I think. Yeah.
You name it, I've tried it.
Yeah.
And maybe now would be a time to go back and try again. Now that I can relate to this approach. But what I love about this hobby, right, is once you go beneath the surface, you find your own style. You do find your own painting style, and your own painting style won't always fit every scenario that you're trying to achieve,
Or even every legion. Could
right.
be different, right?
Right. So, and that's what I love about the hobby. That there's a subtlety to it where, you can, like in my situation where I've chosen a love of a legion, but I can't paint it. But then I've got AOS armies that I've painted, and I've never played them.
Which some of them look very stunning.
Right?
I've seen the work that you do for Age of Sigmar.
I painted Necron. I painted a full Necron, every model, the big Necron things. I painted the whole thing, and I never played.
Never played again.
Never played, but I could paint them. So it's interesting, right? So, but okay, but then what happened is we had a tournament, as you mentioned, right?
Yeah, the first Heresy narrative event that we did here in Malaysia.
Exactly.
A few months ago.
Exactly, right? And so I called up Daryl and I said, mate, we actually got to get these things finished. So
No pressure, Daryl. Please paint my yellow guys.
Let's get it done. So and we got it done just in time. And it was, within the communities there are differences. And I would say what will stand out for me with the narrative event that you guys ran is how incredibly helpful everybody was. And you turn up to an event where every army is painted at this standard or better. And the tables are fantastic, the terrain, the story, the backstory, the little sort of surprises throughout the tournament, the special rules and things that kicked in. It was just really enjoyable, like playing at an elite level, even though we're all just hobbyists.
Yeah.
Right? And so that was, it was really cool. It was, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we're glad that you could come. I mean, not only just because you brought the beautiful army, but many of us also know you from the community, from what you do with Age of Sigmar and other things. And it was really a pleasure to have you. You always bring the right attitude and a different style of energy, I think, to the event.
You haven't seen me lose badly yet.
Yeah. Well, with the fists, sometimes it's not easy to lose, but I kid. I want to come back.
Is it really? I don't know.
No, your
I'll
list.
Have to try that out one day.
Your list. We'll talk about the army in just a moment, but this is like not the stereotypical fist list that you usually see with lots of breachers, lots of stone gauntlet rite of war and this kind of thing. And I think that's also very interesting about your army because it's not, let's say, optimized per se.
Right. And I think when I approached it, I sort of, my starting point was the Horus Heresy box, right? And a few extra, supplementary boxes with the extra weapons and whatnot. So you're sort of starting with that, and that was really my starting point in forming what we were going to build here. But I really wanted these Huskars, so we got the shields sorted out, and this Huskar unit is one thing I focused on, and I had to get these shields from the UK, I think, and those different things. But other than that, we pretty much based it on what we could build. We got some of the HQs.
A lot of HQs. Beautiful, by the way.
And I keep being told, well, you're not going to be able to play them. Why are you getting all these HQs? And it really is. Look how lovely they are, right? I mean, the many facets of this hobby and displaying stuff that just looks fantastic is underrated.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at it here. Can you imagine if this is in the cabinet and you're looking at it there, and you've got all these beautiful HQs kind of at the forefront catching people's eyes. So I totally understand that.
Yeah. So, but these guys, I haven't yet got anywhere at home where I can display them. So that's why I'm kind of excited, like a little boy today, saying, "Oh, look, I can show you my army," because I don't get to see it myself that often until I've got a nice place to display it. And there's more coming. It's not finished, and it will probably, I've got Dawn, of course.
Yep. The big man himself.
He's on his way, and I think it's this game, this hobby is sort of reactive in a way. So you have a starting point and you go down that road a little bit. Now I've played a few games, I've played the tournament. Now I'll start thinking, well, what should I have in my list? What would probably be best? So breaches, like you said, right, and or whatever units are to help win the games or to play different styles or whatever the purpose is. So I think I'll probably start looking at it. That's the next phase for me, is to really start looking at list building and models, and that's always the case. So whereas with Age of Sigmar, I will just buy and build and paint for lists.
And if
lists change, I will buy and build and paint again until I've got the models that I need, and I don't hesitate. People don't like me having 60 Sentinels in my Lumineth army, and that's fine. I understand why they don't like that, but it's okay. But with this, I'm not painting it, right? So I can't rush this, right? So it's going to be a long love affair. And looking forward to playing many more tournaments with you guys.
Well, let's come back to that a little bit, right? Because you have a strong background in Age of Sigmar. You do competitive Age of Sigmar, which is obviously a different mindset, as you alluded to just now.
It is.
You've come and you've played the 30K event, and you've seen more focus on the narrative.
Yeah.
You've seen less focus on bringing what is the ultimate best in a list. Not that one is better than the other, because there's no wrong or right way to play the game, but in your mind, do you feel in some ways that you can take a break with 30K, or you can kind of relax and just enjoy the game more with 30K?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be right, Jason. And I mean, not to sound too cheesy, but however well you do in your tournaments, you come away feeling like a winner, because it's just an extremely enjoyable experience, right?
Yeah.
The rules are, fairly straightforward. It reminded so I had no idea about this until Horus Heresy came out, and I started looking at the rules, and I was talking to Pat, and I said, this feels a little bit like Blood Bowl, right? You've got these abilities, you have to go and look at what the ability does over there, and so on, and I used to play Blood Bowl, so that was, I'm not sure if that's intentional or not, or even accurate, but that's that's what I felt, and so that was another hook, right?
It got you in.
It got me in. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your army right now, right? I mean, as you can see, stunning. Daryl's done an amazing job with this. You alluded as well to the style, which I think is very unique, right? You've got a lot of weathering, but it's not your powders and your extra types of materials that a lot of people use to weather and do these things kind of with the minis. What's your favorite unit? Doesn't even have to be the best, but just looking at the force, which is the one that you really like the most?
Well, of the HQs, I really like this guy. I mean, he's just he's not a named guy.
The Box Praetor?
He's just a Box Praetor, but
Yep.
just the way he's been painted and his proportions and his everything about him, his axe. I just love it. From the units, it's the Huskarls. I really love these guys, and I would love to just play Huskarls. I think they're just amazing, and that whole aspect of being the defenders.
Yeah. The elites of the Imperial Fists.
Right.
Yeah.
With the shields and chain swords and whatnot is just I really love that. So, other than that, I like the whole the view of the whole army is what I really love. Right? Having such a beautifully painted Imperial Fists army, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world.
It's amazing, and it's very interesting that you picked that particular Praetor, because it's kind of a controversial model. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people, when the box set came out, they didn't feel that the HQs really represented the way Heresy looked,
Okay.
or that they borrowed from the Primaris range or these different kinds of things. But I think your comments and your models prove that even the box models can look amazing.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
spot on.
Yeah.
You've also got some very other interesting choices here. Tell me about perhaps your Terminator Chaplain, because I recognize that model. If I'm not mistaken, is that I think maybe the store exclusive or the 25 anniversary?
It is.
Yeah.
And he's one of the lucky few, because I actually painted him myself, and as as part of my trials and tribulations of painting Imperial
Painting
Fists.
yellow.
And when this was progressing, I said to Darryl, "Could you touch this guy up for me a little bit, so that he fits in, right?" So thinking, I hadn't done too bad a job, so anyway, Darryl stripped him to the bones and repainted it, and he's
He's like, "No, I can't do that."
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that showed me, right? So but yeah, so the Chaplain's pretty cool. I know that there was discussions around what weapons to put on these guys, right? And I wanted to. So these are magnetized, I believe.
Oh,
we've
okay.
got this
So you can switch
magnetized,
those
we've
out.
got some options there.
Yep.
But in case the rules change, I suppose, or what benefits. So.
Here, I think I got a better angle. Let me
Thank you.
take a look at that.
But this guy isn't, because
There we go.
I just like this whole sort of aesthetic of a big gun and a fist. I like that. So
Well, it is the fist.
what
So
I
I think big guns, especially bolt weapons like the autocannon and the fist, kind of are like peanut butter and jelly or bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
You've got. You also mentioned a little bit earlier about what was next. You talked about Dorn. You talked about perhaps some breachers. Maybe what about on the vehicle side? Is there anything that catches your attention that you want to talk about that you might add in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I love the vehicles, and I guess as I got further into understanding, the limits of list building, I realized that I can't really go with too many vehicles in a list, right? I think, but I still love the vehicles. I will be adding more and more vehicles. Well, there was a new vehicle release recently, right? The Dawn. It's actually called something Dawn.
That's on 40K.
But it's 40K.
It's
right?
40K.
It's
Yeah,
40K.
Astra Militarum.
Yeah, that's right.
For the 40K.
So, and that's how this hobby always sort of jumps around a little bit. Oh, I really like that shiny thing over there. So,
yeah.
But for 30K, I've got a Legion glaive sitting built, ready to be painted, and I'll probably be adding more to that. I would love to have a 3,000 or even 4,000 point game, or a game where we're putting multiple armies together and have a big bash. So I hope to see that in the future. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's really a case of waiting, I think, now for the next tournament, which is being planned, right?
Yep, that's coming up in May.
In May, so
Yeah.
I need to get a couple of test games in.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, my hobbying side, I'm still focused mostly on AOS at the moment.
Yeah.
So
That's okay. Yeah, and for the May event, it continues the narrative, which we started last year in October. We are increasing the scale, so we're going to have more players for this particular event. You get an opportunity to participate again and bring your lovely fists. Yeah, I think if you had to say what was the one thing that really stood out to you in the first event that we did, and what you would like to see continue in the second event or the future events, what do you think? What do you think that would be? We're soliciting feedback because we want to continuously improve. But what was your best memory, and what did you like?
what worked, what was really nice, is as the rounds progressed and either loyalists scored more points or the bad guys, the traitors scored more points, certain things then happened. So there was that narrativeness throughout the tournament where on a roll of a dice, or on how everybody performed, then it influenced the next round and events on the battlefield was really interesting and fun. I mean, it could be gimmicky, but the way it was done didn't feel that way. It was actually fun, and so that was really good.
Good.
What I'd also, I mean, there's not much to say really, because it was just a fantastic event.
Oh,
right?
thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there should be more of them. That's the only complaint.
We're trying. That was the first one ever in Malaysia, so we're happy to have the second one, and I think you're going to see probably 2 or 3 more over the course of the year. Having been able to experience what 30K is kind of about, having been able to experience more of the narrative style of event, would you ever travel for a 30K event? What do you do in terms of Age of Sigmar? I mean, you're obviously involved in the competitive side of Age of Sigmar, but would you also travel, let's say, if you had an opportunity to do something for 30K?
Well, I think, for me personally, right, I used to travel a lot for work and for other reasons, and I kind of put that life behind me. I'm happy to settle and be in Malaysia, and there's a great community here, right?
Yeah.
But when I heard that there's a chance to, in Age of Sigmar, to get invited to the Worlds later on in the year through qualifying rounds, and there's potentially one round in Singapore, but not sure about it yet, then I was like, oh yeah, I'd really like to do that. Not that, what Age of Sigmar is a lot of luck anyway, right? So it's but it's a fun thing to sort of aim for, right? So I was thinking about that, and then you mentioned Gibraltar, right? You brought up your friends in Gibraltar. And,
No retreat, yep.
And that looked like an amazing event, and I'm like, yeah, I could travel for those kind of reasons. That's good. But I'm probably not ready for that kind of event yet. But in a couple of years' time, you might see me there. Yeah, I could totally envisage it. Yeah.
Well, I think the Army itself is, again, it's absolutely stunning. I have no doubt that if you wanted to apply for No Retreat or any of the events overseas, that you would happily be accepted when you have an Army at this standard. Probably just a couple last questions. What were the most recent additions to this force? I think, if I'm not mistaken, perhaps some of your special characters. Is that true?
Yeah. So these are sort of which one's which?
Sigismund.
Yep.
And, Alexis Polux.
Alexis, yeah. Yeah. And this guy.
That's the Forge World exclusive, or not exclusive, but the Forge World Imperial Fists Terminator.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
So these 3 are the latest ones, and they're just beautiful models.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful
Stunning.
sculptures, and just very well painted. So, well, now I want to have a game.
Now you want to have a game?
Yeah.
Well, we can have a game anytime. We just gotta make time and roll some dice. Happy would love to have a game with you, because I don't think we've ever played 30K versus each other.
Oh, we did in the tournament.
No.
No, you stepped in.
Oh, that's right. I did. I had to step in because we had a person that dropped.
You did.
Yeah.
You did. I played you.
That's right. That's right. Okay, I stand corrected.
I did.
Well, hopefully it was an enjoyable game.
Was that your army though, or was that?
It was. My Death Guard were kind of on the reserves list.
That's right.
Yeah. I think you ended up stomping me or something like this. I don't think I could stop your Spartan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I've ever lost it yet. I'm not sure.
Well, I demand my revenge.
Absolutely.
No,
Let's do it.
Just kidding. Okay, so you mentioned also that you wanted to add some more to the list. You talked about the vehicles. You mentioned a little bit about breachers. Any other units? Perhaps, I don't know, some Templar Brethren or anything else that's fists, right? Stereotypical fist. What would you think you'd want to add there?
Yeah, I honestly, I can't really give you an answer, Jason. It's sort of it's been a while to build the army up to this stage, to this level, and I think looking forward, I probably need to have a think about what I'd want to play, and then try and convince Darryl to paint more yellow. So it's sort of work in progress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Totally understandable. Well, first of all, again, thank you for bringing the Army. Thank you for showing off these amazing models, but also introducing yourself to the wider community. I think you can see from our Army showcases here on Far East Wargaming, we have a lot of people from different backgrounds here in Malaysia in terms of experience, nationality, and it's very exciting for us to bring these things to a wider audience for everybody to see. So again, appreciate the time. Any last comments? Any I don't know, exciting things happening either for 30K, Age of Sigmar, or anything else that you'd like to talk about before we wrap it up?
Well, just to sort of re-emphasize the point I said at the beginning about you, Jason. Thank you for everything you do for the community here. It really is because of you that I have this army.
Oh, thank you.
And have enjoyed playing Horus Heresy, right? Because you were doing it before Horus Heresy, so you're a legitimate sort of 30K guy, and that love of it really shines through in everything that you do. So appreciate that. And what else? Malaysia's a great country. Come over to Malaysia and play some games, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you, and really thankful for the kind words. So thanks for that. It's just great to see the passion from so many different people and to see it grow. And if there's anything that we collectively can do to grow the hobby, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So hopefully you enjoyed the time today. You'll be able to see some close-ups of these amazing units and models just shortly. We'll be bringing you more Heresy content on an ongoing basis, including battle reports, Heresy Thursday reviews, Army showcases like this. So stay tuned for more, and thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.